I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is PsycHacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is, some problems are their best solutions. Look around you. The world is full of problems. It's a very unsatisfactory situation. However, the unfortunate reality is that many of the problems you see are actually their own best solutions. This means that trying to solve the problems you see will create even more and worse problems than if you had just let that original problem be. Many of the problems that exist in the world are the best of even more unsatisfactory solutions. This is because most problems do not have easy, inexpensive, enduring, satisfactory solutions. This is disappointing. But accepting this reality will help you have more patience and compassion with respect to these problems, and also a healthy caution about fiddling with problems you may know little about. In fact, it's generally safer to assume that a problem that you encounter in life is its own best solution until sufficient due diligence proves otherwise. That is, the burden of proof lies with demonstrating that a problem is not its own best solution. To clarify what I mean, let me give you a concrete example, and then we'll abstract to the psychological domain. As you might be aware, I'm reading a script when I record these episodes. I do this out of respect for you, my audience. I've discovered that when content creators, myself included, just riff to a camera by themselves, it's very easy for them to start meandering or hesitating or repeating themselves. Like the first 90 seconds might contain an interesting idea, but the next several minutes are just spent reiterating that idea in slightly different ways. This is often obscured by the fact that they use lots of different camera tricks or editing in order to kind of hide the fact that the content is boring and repetitive. It's very difficult to improvise a multifaceted argument that builds on itself to no one. Try it out for yourself if you don't believe me. So most people don't even try. To avoid these problems, I script out my talks so that they can be as concise and direct and effective as possible. I don't want to waste your time. Now, one of the liabilities of this approach is that I must occasionally look down at my script and away from the camera. And over the years, I have received a number of emails from people complaining that this is distracting and suggesting that I get a teleprompter. A few of them have even offered to buy me one. In point of fact, I had thought of this idea long ago, and I actually bought a teleprompter myself to solve this issue. However, it soon became clear to me that reading off my script was a problem that was its own best solution. The teleprompter allowed me to look directly at the camera. But because I was sitting so close to the screen, my eye movements actually became even more exaggerated and distracting. To solve this problem, I would need to move far away from the teleprompter. Like newscasters aren't sitting directly in front of their cameras, are they? So that the eye movements wouldn't be noticeable at that far of a remove. Unfortunately, the web camera I was using didn't have a zoom feature. This meant that I would either look very small in a big visual field, which would be awkward and distracting itself, or I would need to buy a new camera with a zoom lens. This, in turn, would require that I change my audio recording setup as well, as I could no longer record the episodes on a single track. And recording on separate tracks would demand that I either devote the time and effort to learning how to sync and master them, or find and pay someone to do this for me. In any case, I succeeded in creating several new problems for myself by solving the original problem. I also considered other possible solutions that I won't go into here, everything from utilizing AI filters to memorizing my entire scripts. However, in every case, the potential solution created new problems that were even more distracting, effortful, or expensive than the problem I was initially trying to solve. In the end, I decided that the original problem was the least problematic problem of them all. So you will all have to contend with me occasionally looking down at my scripts for the foreseeable future. If you appreciate the insights on this channel, I would highly encourage you to get your hands on a copy of my book, The Value of Others. Over the course of 432 pages, I delve deep into my economic model of relationships and explain the behavior of both men and women in the game of mating and dating. I also provide a lot of actionable advice on how to get and keep more of what you want in the sexual marketplace. Once you read The Value of Others, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. Now available in ebook, audiobook, and paperback formats. The links are in the description. Now, without knowing all of these downstream consequences, it's very easy to criticize and offer unsolicited advice. And just for the record, I'm not offended by these suggestions. I know they're coming from a good place. However, once people understand that every part of a system is inextricably and often invisibly connected to every other, then they become more cautious about making changes. This is because many problems are actually their own best solutions, but people often only realize this after they start messing with things. Now let's abstract to the psychological domain. People are problematic. They can be selfish, or aggressive, or victimizing, or malcontent, or hypocritical, to name just a few. However, it can also be the case that these negative attributes, while problematic, are less problematic than the problems they would create in their own resolution. As I've said previously, most of the word dysfunction is the word function. This means that dysfunction mostly works. And it mostly works by serving an important role in the life of the individual in question. Remove the dysfunctional behavior from that important role, and at least for a while, the number of problems that individual contends with is going to multiply considerably. Take being jaded or cynical. While clearly suboptimal, this attitude serves an important role in the life of the individual in question, namely protection from emotional pain. Cynicism creates problems. Notably, it cuts people off from experiencing certain positive emotions like joy or sincerity. But these problems might be less problematic than the problems that would emerge were the cynicism to be removed. The experience of disappointment, heartbreak, embarrassment, mockery, and so on. Simply suggesting that a cynical individual should, say, go to therapy and heal the root causes of his jadedness, while potentially coming from a desire to be helpful, typically lacks appropriate context. For instance, therapy can be expensive. Will the stress associated with incurring the additional expense of therapy be more painful than the problem he would be using therapy to solve? Therapy can also be stressful. Things typically get worse before they get better. Does the individual have the time and emotional bandwidth to take on this project at the present time? And of course, even assuming the therapy is successful, which of course is always doubtful, is the resolution of this problem a net positive? Like, is the pain associated with greater exposure to negative emotions necessary for the cultivation of resilience more than offset by the pleasure associated with greater exposure to positive emotions? For many people, life is very hard. And the compromised position of cynicism may actually be the best they can do. Believing the contrary may be insisting on an idealism that may not be grounded in reality. Now, this is not to say that the conditions inhospitable to change are static and don't evolve over time. Of course they aren't. Things are always in a state of flux. And this means that there may come a time in the future when the problems created by certain solutions won't be quite as problematic, or that certain problems will become even more problematic than they currently are. But it can also be the case that whatever problem you've identified is the very best solution that can be implemented at the present time. Accept this possibility, and people and the societies they create suddenly make a lot more sense. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. And please send this episode to someone who you think might benefit from its message, as it's word-of-mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. And anyone looking to join my free weekly newsletter or book a paid consultation can do so on my website. The links to everything are in the description below. As always, I appreciate your support, and thank you for listening.